All right, welcome in. The Cube Show podcast, a college football podcast, usually comes to you on Sundays. We're running a little bit behind this week. This UFL season kind of starting to catch up with me. Had the draft last week. I was in Charlotte Thursday night. We had T-ball games. We had baseball games, playoff games for 6-year-old coach pitch. That's a real thing. But anyway, it's been just kind of busy, kind of slammed, trying to catch up and get this out to you. So we're going to go with another team preview today, kind of take a little bit of a look at exactly what's going on through spring practice, review the spring game for the Florida Gators. And I'm going to dive into it, let you know what I've seen, what I think, what I like. And I think there's some misconceptions about this team that some people aren't really paying attention to. I think there's some misconceptions around the schedule. We'll talk about that a little bit. A lot of different things that we want to get to with the Florida Gators in their spring preview today. You guys know we're brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Wickedly delicious. Yes, you understand exactly what that is, what that means. We love Wickles Pickles. Go to wickles.com. You can check them out today. If they don't have them in your grocery store, which why wouldn't they? You need to find out if they do. They're great to snack on. A little spicier version that's up now at wickles.com. You can get some gear at wickles.com as well. Get this hat if you want at wickles.com. Wickles Pickles, wickedly delicious. We appreciate them being the sponsor of the show. All right, Florida Gators. First, I guess we could kind of talk transfer portal just a little bit. There were a couple of things from an Alabama perspective that I wanted to hit in the transfer portal, and I kind of forgot to have that up, so I'm going to pull it up for you real quick and check my notes out. Tony Mitchell goes into the portal. Not a big surprise. A lot of people kind of asked about where he was after the spring, why he wasn't being mentioned more. But this is one that I think just he wasn't even listed on the depth chart for the spring game and wasn't even really discussed. So it's not a huge surprise that he's not going to be there. Peyton Woodward, former 4-star DB safety, he goes in the portal, looking like Oregon for him. Listen, from a depth perspective, it's a pretty big loss, but I think Alabama has an idea where they want to be, what they like. James Brockermeyer leaving to go to TCU was a big surprise for me. And I know the whole Texas thing and his brother's on staff there now, but he ran with the ones. Parker Brailsford missed some time in the spring and is apparently going to come back, but you're running with the ones. You got a chance to win the job. Like, I thought he could compete and maybe get it because I heard nothing but good things about it. So that one surprised me just a little bit. Cam Howard is the safety from Charlotte that Alabama has gone out and gotten. Now, I went and pulled a couple of his Charlotte games and watched. I think he's fast. He covers a lot of ground. I think he's good in coverage. I'm not going to expect him to play down in the box a lot. This kid's 189 pounds, 5'11", so probably more of the nickel roll, dime, maybe in coverage. But he adds some depth. He's a good player, true freshman last year, so he's got some eligibility left. And this is a young man that I know has a relationship with Marquise Linguist, but the size is the only thing that concerns me. I love his athleticism. I love his speed based on what I saw on film. But a little bit surprised about a couple of the things that took place there. Zachary Franklin hitting the portal from Ole Miss, the UTSA transfer. You know, he's a guy that we had high expectations for last year. When you pulled his UTSA film, you're kind of like, whoa, like this kid can go. I was a fan. I liked him. I thought he was going to be able to help. But obviously they have other weapons there. I guess he figures not going to get the touches that he wants. You know, he had the knee surgery and just things aren't it. So he's out. Amarion Walker, cornerback, is going to be out. Skylar Mann, linebacker, is going to be out at Ole Miss, and Akedrick Riscano, tailback, is going to be out there at Ole Miss. I think they've got what they want in. I think they've got what they need in. They're not overly concerned about exactly, what it's going to look like and what it's going to be as far as guys hitting the portal now, because if you're hitting the portal now, you probably know where you lie as far as playing time this upcoming season. All right, guys, I want to tell you about the Game Time app. I've told you I've used this before, but now I want to talk to you about upcoming MLB games. I was in St. Louis for a UFL game a couple of weeks ago. Cardinals game had already started, and I found some super cheap tickets on the Game Time app, and I was able to get in right away. All right, so a lot of matchups across the course of the baseball season that we're going to want to see. You got last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of event in your area. You can get views from your seat right there at the stadium, no matter what MLB stadium you're at. So you'll know exactly how it's going to look and what it's going to be. These flash deals save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. You got all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Listen, this is easy. Go download the Game Time app now. Use promo code CUBE, C-U-B-E. You're going to save $20 on your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create an account, redeem the code CUBE, C-U-B-E. You get $20 off your first tickets. Any sporting event, Major League Baseball, UFL, whatever it is, if you want to get into a sporting event, concert, theater, show, anything, go to the Game Time app. They're going to help you out. They're going to find ways to get you into high-profile events for the best price guaranteed. All right, let's dive into Florida. Watch the spring game back and have some thoughts on that and just some thoughts on this team post-spring. This is a team that added a lot of leadership in the offseason. And it's one of those things that we kind of talked about, I think, with Auburn when we mentioned them, that some of the guys that they're bringing in, like you bring a receiver in from Georgia State who kind of is taking over that receiver room. You bring a safety in from Texas that's very vocal, kind of taking over that room. I think Florida is experiencing some of those things right now. Also at the safety spot. You go get a couple veteran safeties that not only bring experience and have the wherewithal from a coverage standpoint, where to be, what to do, how to do it, but also you're able to get in there and let people hear your voice and be very vocal as far as, what's going to happen inside that room, and you can find a leadership role. I think it is one thing that's a little bit understated about the portal that we're not really talking about yet, is that there is room for guys going to certain teams to not only transfer in for playing time, but also transfer in and find a leadership role. Because a lot of teams that need guys, they don't just need the talent, they need the experience, and then they need those vocal leaders to come in and take things over. I think you're getting that from a couple of players on this Florida football team, specifically on defense. Grayson Howard, Pup Howard, the linebacker, I think is going to come in, be able to help a little bit. I think Joey Slackman has really been a mature voice in that defensive line room. Kind of a body that, and a personality that's going to be good for the rest of that room to watch and follow. I think that's going to be a real positive. And then on the back end, like I mentioned, Asa Turner from Washington. I spent a lot of time with those Washington coaches the last year and a half. They were big fans of his, loved his game. DJ Douglas coming in as well. So bringing those vets in, I think, is going to help in a little bit of a different way. Brandon Dixon, Crenshaw Dixon, the offensive tackle from San Diego State, same thing, like handles his business the right way from everything that I'm told, and can be a little bit of an example for some of the younger players. So I just think that we're seeing more teams that are going to potentially going to have this opportunity to sort of be that and sort of be a guy that can come in and be a leader, not just somebody that has talent. No, I can get playing time or a little bit more NIL money. There are leadership vacancies at a lot of these schools that need players to come in and help. And certain players are taking advantage of that. This offseason, they wanted to add that experience, wanted to add some of that leadership. They go get Ron Roberts. I think, he's a guy that when you talk about Austin Armstrong, I mean, this is his like football dad sort of. And I think Ron's going to help simplify a few things. Austin can get a little complicated. Like he can get out there. There's a lot of stuff that he likes to run. And I think Ron will help him sort of even some things out just a little bit on that side of the ball. I think they'll also be capable of handling more this year, which is going to cause less confusion and put less stress on the corners. We'll get to the defense in just a moment. Gerald Chapman, the defensive line coach that's come in, everybody I talked to in Gainesville is raving about this guy. They think he's going to be a star. Think he's going to be a massive help. They're already seeing technical and fundamental differences with those defensive linemen. I think he's going to end up being a great get for Billy Napier. So I think they still need a little bit of help at certain spots. We'll talk about that. I think offensively, you're probably going to get more shot plays. I think defensively, you'll see more speed and more length on that side of the ball. Keep in mind, too, those veterans that you added, if you're Florida, you're talking about a team that had about 25% of their snaps from true freshmen last year. That makes a massive difference, man. Like you can only call so much. There's certain guys you have to protect. When you go protect them, you stress other parts of your defense. So collectively, I think there's a chance to see some pretty big steps in Gainesville this year. We'll start on offense, though. I don't understand why folks can't get excited about or don't like or just for whatever reason don't think Graham Mertz is very good. I can remember doing this exact show a year ago when we watched the Florida spring game, and we talked about how he managed the offense, operated the offense, handled the offense, and it looked great. And a couple of the incompletions that everybody were mad about, they were throwaways. And a lot of the pressures that were getting to him weren't his fault. But if you were to put the blinders on and do sort of the old Coke Pepsi test back in the day, the old taste test with the blindfold on. And I gave you 73%, 2,903 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, and said, you think that team's going to be okay with that guy under center this year? You'd say, well, hell yeah, they are. If South Carolina had that guy coming back, totally different conversation. If Peyton Thorne had those numbers right now, what are we saying about Auburn this upcoming season? I bet we're having a different conversation about what those teams could be or might be. I'm just saying. Florida's got that in Graham Mertz, yet nobody really wants to talk about him like he's a guy that can really help this football team take big steps or be very good. One of the coolest things about Mertz, I think, is this relationship he's got with DJ Lagway, the incoming freshman quarterback that guys are raving about, has a ton of talent. We saw him in the spring game, loved the movement, the mobility, stayed accurate on the run. Until he kept his eyes downfield. He leveled the football a few times, got it up and over defenses. Thought he made some good throws down the field. So got a couple of balls, got a little wobbly at times. But, I mean, listen, he's young. It's going to happen. But I think what you're going to see is a 23-year-old, 6-year senior taking this 18-year-old freshman under his wing really benefit Florida for years to come. But for this year, it's going to be Mertz's show, and it should be. And I think he can operate it, and I think he can operate it at a high level. Does he have the weaponry to put up massive numbers? Probably not. But the focal point's still going to be on running the football, and that's going to open everything else up. Like losing Ricky Pearsall, it's a big deal. Yes. Losing a couple of the other offensive linemen, I don't think it's as big a deal, and I don't think the coaching staff thinks it's as big a deal. So there are always a little bit of addition by subtraction with some of these individuals that we talk about. You just don't hear about it publicly like sometimes I do or I know about. But I do think that you got a big-time, mature quarterback that knows how to do it all, and they'll expand a little bit for him this year. Behind him, ATN is probably one of the bigger losses. I think that's one that this staff probably looked at and said, we don't want him to get away. If they could have it back, they'd want to keep him a little bit more explosive. But I'm going to flip that around on you. Kind of like Napier is flipping around this talk about the schedule. I'm going to flip around running back. ATN, add a little bit more explosive capabilities? Yes, he does. Do I like him as a tailback? 100%, yes. Would it bother me if I was a Florida kid and he went to Georgia? Sure would. Yeah, absolutely. And I know there are players on this team that are bothered by that for a fact. But Montrell Johnson is as steady as you're going to get at tailback. And for the stretch play and the inside zone play that they run, like his downhill hammer style is going to fit it perfect. You're still going to get the split zones and the bootlegs and the throws off that, and you're going to get counter and power. Montrell's great with all of that. But you have a couple of other guys that I think are going to help at this position. Like KD Daniels did some good things in the spring game. True freshman, number 21. Like you see him get north and south. He's got some juice. Like he's got some explosive capabilities. Trey and Webb played a little bit last year. Like I think he gives a guy that can help. But this number 13, Jaden Ball, whoa. This is the part that probably takes me most off guard because I think a lot of people similar to me when I just watched it, and I thought he looked good. And I was like, man, that jump cut was incredible. Or like, look at it. Like, wow, this kid's got some power. Or his kid can get north and south in a hurry. I didn't realize he was 237 pounds doing the things that he was doing. He looked explosive. He looked agile, had great body control. It changed the direction, seemed to be easy for him. I don't know why more people aren't talking about number 13, Jaden Ball for Florida coming out of that spring game, because what I saw wowed the hell out of me. I think a lot of other people should probably feel the same way. And then when I talked to some folks down in Gainesville, the one thing they talked about, man, he's a load, Cube. Like, Cole, this kid he's massive. He's a big, thick kid. Once again, when you saw him making the moves and running the way that he didn't come across that way. So I just think this is a young man that after a couple of weeks could really be helping this Florida offense out and could help them with depth and just give them a totally different dynamic. All right, guys, you know about Prize Picks, #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you just watch those winnings continue to roll in. Now, listen, March is over. We know April's not here, but hey, we got NBA playoffs, you got UFL, you got UFC, a lot of different ways right now that you can use Prize Picks and go make some money. It's pretty simple. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's right. turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, all these different sports that you're going to watch anyway. Why not make it more intriguing with Prize Picks? Best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. That includes California, Texas, and Georgia. Listen, Prize Picks is really simple to play. Guys, I just make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, enormous selection of players and stat types are what it's going to make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account at the end of the basketball season and into Major League Baseball season. So listen, I've done it. It's easy. It's fun. Download the app today. Use promo code CUBE, C-U-B-E. They're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you go get Prize Picks app today, create an account, promo code CUBE, C-U-B-E, put $100 in, they match it, and you are ready to go. All right, so use that. Go to promo code CUBE. $100, they'll match it. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. You got to get it going with Prize Picks. Wide receivers, one that's going to be a little bit of a concern. Now, Eugene Wilson, real deal. Like we saw Eugene Wilson on the end around. He caught that slant. He had the seam for a touchdown, the corner route that he caught. He can do it all, and he's going to do it all. And I think they probably know that they need to get him a lot of touches, and they want him to have those touches. And so he'll be a feature guy in this offense. Problem is you just don't have a bunch of guys like him. But I do think Khalil Jackson, who you saw make some plays in the spring game, can be a good SEC receiver. You bring in Shamiri DK from Wisconsin, who was with Mertz, who gives you a little extra length. And I think somebody that's automatically going to be on the same page with him and somebody who I think is going to help. Andy Jean was the big high-profile recruit last year that has all the talent, who I think also can be a guy that shows up a little bit for this offense this year and makes some plays. It's not a down group. They're just down numbers. And they only have one that really sticks out from the rest, which is fine. There's a lot of schools that don't have the one. But also keep in mind, just go back to Pearsall last year, the way they moved him around. That's why he's going to be a great fit for San Francisco, by the way, is because he can line up so many different places. I mean, he can take the ball, slant, he can get you on a corner route, go ball, end around, jet, like whatever it is. And he's going to be able to make plays. It's a great pick by San Francisco. But nonetheless, Eugene Wilson can be that guy. They're going to move him around, do different things with him, force feed him the football. And then you have other guys that will benefit from that, like Jackson. Obviously somebody that has that Florida lineage. And I think Andy Jean and DK as well. Now, tight end, I think, has a chance to be a position sort of strength. You got your inline sort of hard hat guy and Hayden Hansen, like bigger, more physical. He'll line up hand in the date next to the offensive tackle. All right. Boardingham, we've seen him. Like, I can remember the first time I saw Boardingham a couple of years ago, and I was just like, whoa, guy looks like a power forward, runs like a deer. He has a chance to be more the H off the ball guy that can make some plays. And Keon Zipper is going to have a role. He's coming back off injury, and I think he'll help him a little bit as well. That group's going to be able to help this offensive line, which we know struggled last year. Like, it's not a big secret. But I think this Florida offensive line room, top to bottom, is going to be better emotionally, mentally. I don't know another way to say this, but some of the turds are gone. And that's going to make things a little bit more pleasant inside that room. I also think you're going to have the numbers there to where if guys aren't performing, you're going to have somebody else that can step in and play. And if you listen to this podcast regularly, we say that a lot, that one of the most unfortunate things specifically with offensive line play around college football is when certain individuals are underperforming, there's just nobody else to put in, either from a talent perspective, a trust perspective, an ability perspective, experience perspective. Like, there's not other guys that you can just say, you know what, he ain't getting it done. Let's try this guy, because they're just not there. It's hard enough to find 5 starters, much less legitimate depth. I think Florida has a chance to have pretty good depth here. Now, Austin Barber was out for spring. He didn't go. That's okay. You know what you got with him. Damian George going to move down inside. I think he's better suited for guard. A little bit longer than your prototypical guard, but physically with some of the things that happened to him at tackle last year, he'll do better here. He'll be a better fit. And my understanding is that he's gone back and forth with about 16 pounds of fat off and then good weight back on, where his body is going to be different this year, which is going to help make him a little bit of a different player. He's got a lot of experience. Kenai Harris is going to play guard. You're going to get Williams at guard. You're going to get Lovett at guard. And I think you'll have maybe Bryce Lovett, not just going to be a guard. I think he's somebody they're extremely high on that can maybe help back up all 5 positions. Like he could be your ultimate utility offensive lineman because he has that kind of versatility. They're excited about him. Jake Slaughter at center. Rod Kearney was a guy that I saw in the spring game on a couple combos, like getting a good push up to the second level that I really liked and thought did some good things. I thought he was a guy that, at least from a spring game perspective, what I saw was really impressive. Harris, I thought, was another guy that got good push at the line of scrimmage and worked his combos really well. Damian George was out there getting a push, did some good things inside. I think he'll help whoever the center is as well to have a bigger, more physical body to help with some of those double teams. That's going to be massive. So I think too, you go Devin Manuel, probably going to be the second left tackle. We've already talked about Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon from San Diego State. He'll start at one tackle opposite Austin Barber. But you bring in Manuel from Arkansas that has some experience that can play. Fletcher Westphal could potentially be a swing tackle. Caden Jones coming off a broken foot, like when he's been there, hadn't been able to get all the reps he's needed, like he could be a guy who also helps. You kind of see where I'm going, where it's been sort of, if we lose one guy, we're in deep shit, to now you may have 8 or 9 guys that can potentially give you legitimate snaps, which is huge. It's massive. And it changes the dynamic of the entire room, where number one, you might not have to shuffle 3 or 4 guys if one person gets injured. Number two, if somebody's underperforming, you might be able to have somebody else to be able to put in. They put a lot on their offensive line, man. They put a lot on the center position, and that's the way it should be. The quarterback shouldn't have to do everything. The coach shouldn't have to do everything from the sideline. There should be player responsibility, even with these communication devices that are coming in, where guys should have to handle certain parts of this. And I think you're going to see more of these Florida offensive linemen do that this year. So I think when you look at better depth on the offensive line, and maybe that means just giving guys a blow in the game, like putting the twos in or some of the twos in for a series or two at different points in time. The tight end being able to help that group. Tight ends maybe being able to help offset some of the pass catchers early if they need them to. Good running back depth, but a running back that you know you can lean on early and you don't have to force the carries into your young backs. Because I'm just telling you guys right now, like mark it down right now. Mark it down that I said it right here coming out of spring ball. Jaden Ball is going to be one of the surprise freshmen in the SEC that we're talking about at the end of the season. The kid is going to be special. Like I'm confident that he's going to be that. And even if it's KD Daniels next, you got Montrell to lean on before you have to go to those guys. They can be luxury players early before they find out whatever role it is that they're going to have. You got a quarterback that has enough mobility to work your bootlegs, to work your zone read game, to work the RPO game. And I'll say this too, like DJ Lagway, I think because he has a little more mobility, could very well have a role in this offense. I think it's one of the ways you keep him happy is, you play him a couple of times, you get him some good reps. If you try to save the red shirt, whatever, a guy of that caliber, you're probably not planning on him being 5 years anyway. So get him in there, get him reps, keep him happy, get him real game experience, and then you're off and running next year even more so than you are now. You have some big play receivers, specifically one, others that I think maybe could turn into that. But keep in mind, this is a very quarterback-friendly offense. This is a run-first offense. And this is an offense that at times just kind of ran out of gas a little bit. With more depth on the offensive line, with receivers that have the capabilities to make plays, a quarterback that's going to be able to expand that offense a little bit further than what it was a year ago, there's no reason they shouldn't take a real step here. Now, would you love to be littered with first-round receivers like LSU last year or Bama a couple years ago in 20? Like, yeah, everybody would. It's not a real thing, though. I mean, go across the league and tell me how many teams have 2 big boy wide receivers. I mean, there might be 2 or 3 of them, but not half the league. And then there's a couple that we think are, but we're not really sure. We haven't seen them yet. So I just think this offense is in better shape than people imagine. And also, because of what they are going to be at their core, which is essentially run the ball control, they'll be able to help the defense out a little bit. All right, don't forget about Blue Delta jeans, the most comfortable jeans you will ever put on. You can go to bluedeltajeans.com now, find your pair, find the stitching, find the color that you want. They're going to custom fit these for you. And you can do that digitally now. Mother's Day coming up. A blue Delta Jeans gift card would be perfect. Graduation coming up. What a better way to get somebody started for their life after college or high school with an awesome pair of denim that they can wear dressed up, casual, that fit just for them. Comfortable, stretchy. Best pair of jeans I've ever had. Go to bluedeltajeans.com now to find yours. Can the defense be better, though? That's the biggest question because it wasn't great last year. Do they have an elite rusher? No, you don't. You're going to have to find a way to create some of that. Austin's got the packages to be able to do it, so I'm not overly concerned that he can. You have a big, physical, heavy-handed defensive line, which is a great place to start. If you have defensive linemen in this league, you're going to find a way to win games. Ask Florida, because Cam Jackson about single-handedly beat Tennessee last year. They played light in the box. He dominated up front, couldn't run the ball. That was it. Won the numbers game on the back end. Cam Jackson going to be back. He's down 15 pounds or so. Apparently his technique and fundamentals gotten a lot better. Him and Des Watson will be at nose. Kelby Collins probably helped there a little bit. So I feel pretty good about those guys being inside. Now, your defensive tackles, Caleb Banks looked good in the spring game. Like he's flashing behind the line of scrimmage doing some different things. I think he's going to be a good player. Joey Slackman is the Ivy League player that you bring in from Penn, who is a little bit lighter, but keep in mind, it's something like the tweener D lineman is something that this group doesn't have. And I know when people hear tweener, they immediately think edge defender, right? Well, now we're in an era of football where you kind of want some D tackle tweeners, the lighter guys that are a little bit twitchier. You want that interior pass rush. So it feels like Florida right now kind of is stuck in we have these giant defensive linemen, and that's about it. Like this, they got old school 3 techniques and nose guards, but like no in between. And then kind of out on the edge, same thing. It's like a bunch of like 3-4 defensive ends, but no 4-3 defensive ends, if that makes sense. Like there's not a lot of twitch on the outside, but I do think there's some ways that they can find it and create it. Nonetheless, you'll get like Tyreek Sapp, 94, did some really good things in the spring game. Like he won some one-on-one pass rushes. Like he was penetrating against the run, strike and shed, something I saw 94 do. Like he had a couple bull rush moves, a TFL. Cam Jackson had a couple TFLs, stuffed the run in short yardage a couple of times. The one guy that I will say gives him a little twitch, like that field end will be him. Cam James will be over there. Brian Taylor, the JUCO kid, will be over there to help there as well. The one kid that I do think off the edge has a chance to really help is going to be LJ McCray at 17. His like body type when you see him is just different. Like he looks like a different cat when he's out on the field. I think he could be sort of that edge defender that potentially helps a little bit. And the other one is going to be, it's weird to see 49 off the edge. It's just kind of a weird edge number. But this George Gums kid out of Northern Illinois, like I've watched his film, and if you go back a couple of episodes, whenever he committed to Florida, we talked about him. But like he looked good against SEC competition. He's loose, he's flexible, he can bend, he can dip and rip. He's got a pretty good get off. I thought he did some nice things in this game. So maybe there are a couple of guys at sort of that jack linebacker position with like a TJ Searcy and Gums that I think may be able to sort of give you a little something off the edge and help generate more pass rush than what people think that they're going to have. Also, linebacker is when you start to bring in some more of those veterans. We talked about Pup Howard. I think Wingo kind of be one of your third down backers. A lot of experience, good in coverage. And by the way, great kid. I met him up at the SEC Network last Thursday for draft coverage. He was there with Doring. I mean, Derek Wingo, amazing kid. Like any dad would want your son to turn out like that young man. Just well-spoken, polite, respectful, wishing him a hell of a year. Shamar James, Jaden Robinson, RJ Moten, off the ball linebacker. I think you have decent numbers there, some good experience there, guys that have played. So I think linebacker is something that I'm not overly concerned about. Now, are they going to be super dynamic, like all twitched up and just guys making plays left and right? No, probably not. But solid? Yeah, I think so. Communicators? Yes, I think Pup Howard's bringing some of that in. I think he's going to be able to help with that. Sharif Denson, I thought stuck out in the spring game. Like this dude's coming up, taking on tight ends and linemen. He's making plays behind the line of scrimmage. He's batting balls down. I'm told that he had a great spring. By the way, another one I wanted to point out, Jamari Lyons at nose or D tackle, maybe a little bit of both. Probably the best spring of all the defensive linemen. Just Throwing that out there. But at that star position, Denson had a great spring. You got some Aaron Gates who maybe can help out there just a little bit. But I think that's going to be a position of strength. Safety is where the biggest upgrades happen on the entire football team. Asa Turner, a vet out of Washington, comes in. Trequezie Bridges comes in as just another safety that has a ton of experience, has played a lot of football out of Oregon. And then you get DJ Douglas from Tulane that I think immediately is going to be able to help you right away. So you go from all these freshmen in the secondary that played all this football last year to now you have veterans that not only can make plays, are going to be rangy, have seen everything, but also can help get other guys lined up and help control the room and help control the expectations and just flat communicate better, which I think is going to be huge. Corner, obviously, Jason Marshall, Jakeem Jackson have played a lot. Devin Moore, Dijon Johnson, I think are going to be able to help you. There was a lot of stress put on these corners last year, a lot. And for a lot of different reasons, just kind of had to be that way. And they were young, but now I think they're going to be a little bit more grown up. There's not going to be as much on them based on the structure of the defense and how coverages are played. So I think that group has a chance to sort of make some headway and grow a little bit. If you can find a way to get some of that consistent pass rush off the edge, I think this D line is going to be stout inside. Des Watson apparently is down, close to 50 pounds. He's trying to get that weight under control where he can help. If he can give you 12, 15 snaps a game, that's great because, people can say what they want, but when he was in the games, like he was a problem. He filled things up. He forced runs to bounce. Like he kept guards off linebackers. He helps the defense when he's in. So I understand there's a lot of other chatter around that, but he can help. Now you have some linebackers that can fly around and make plays, a star that's going to be down in the box making plays. So I understand that there's not a lot of super dynamic aspects of this football team. There's not a lot of first rounders that people are going to go, oh man, what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with him? But honestly, it's not really how Billy has built his teams anyway. Like he doesn't build his teams on, look how great this individual is or how many yards can we get this guy. It's more of a collective effort, and I think this team kind of fits more of that mold, and you got a couple of the shitheads out of there that are going to make things a little bit easier to process, deal with, manage, and just the overall behavior of it's going to work better. I think they're going to surprise some people. This is my opinion coming out of spring. I'd love to see him add another receiver, maybe another DB, but I think that there are a lot of reasons that this team could exceed expectations. Number one, the expectations are too low. You people saying 3 and 4 wins for this Florida team, you're out of your mind. It's the Florida Gators, man. Like, that's not going to happen. I think the Florida Gators are going to be just fine this year. To the schedule. I love how Billy Napier is talking about this schedule, saying, hey, Miami's a tough team to play. We get them at home, and it's not Utah on the road. Yeah, seems like a pretty good trade, right? Like, we don't have to go to Kentucky. Florida State on the road's tough, but look what they lost. Look what LSU's offense lost. Mississippi State, we talked about their offense last week, but they're going to be tough. It's a rebuild. I don't know what A&M's going to be. I really don't. I have no idea. They got some talent. They could be tough. Their defense will probably be more sound, but I don't look at that as an unwinnable game. Georgia's Georgia, man. At Texas is going to be tough. I can't talk my way around those. But LSU's offense ain't going to be what it was last year. And the defense just magically better. Which the weird thing with the LSU defense in that conversation is you had dudes up front on that defense last year. Not a lot of dudes up front on that defense right now. Maybe the portal changes that before we kick off. But I love Blake Baker. But Blake Baker's got to have some guys. So I don't see the defense taking drastic steps. My point is there is a lot on this schedule that's a lot more manageable than people think. There are a lot more toss-up games on this schedule than people think. Like, guys, Miami went 7-6 last year. Central Florida went 6-7. I know people are painting those as Super Bowl type games for both of the teams on both sides of those, but those are not unwinnable games by any stretch of the imagination. Chris Hatcher does a great job at Samford. We've seen Samford scare Florida before, but they're going to get that game. So I think they have a chance to get off to a good start. It's backloaded. It's tough as hell once November hits. Maybe the most difficult November I've ever seen, with Georgia at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and at Florida. But if I'm going to play Ole Miss next year, I'd much rather play them November 23rd. Just saying, like they're not a deep football team. Florida State, we're putting all of our eggs in the DJU basket. Like, a lot of that defensive talent's gone. Those receivers are going to be gone. It's not winnable. So I just think the expectation's too low. I think people refuse to look at some of the things about this team that are extremely positive that could be pretty good this year. And I'm higher on the Florida Gators than a lot of other people are. I like some of the things I saw in that spring game. I like some of the things that I'm hearing from guys that are in that building about this football team and some of these players. Spring is here. I've told you guys about my friends at Blakely's Bouquets. Listen, I was out of town last weekend, kind of left the wife alone. I had to go to Charlotte Thursday for some draft coverage, got in late Sunday night because of some delays. And I kind of just thought to myself, like, man, I feel like I missed just so much when I'm out of town. So I stopped by Blakely's on Monday after I did the show right there downtown Edgewood in Homewood, Alabama. Picked up some flowers, brought them for the wife. She loved them, thought they were perfect. I didn't have to pick them out. The fine folks right there at Blakely's, you know, you just tell them what you're looking for and they'll put something amazing together for you. If it's weddings, if it's graduation, we got Mother's Day coming up. Get your orders in now, Blakely'sBouquets.com, 205-579-4900 for all your floral needs in Central Alabama. They deliver to all of Shelby County and Jefferson County. Get those Mother's Day orders in now. Easter, you know, they took good care of me there. Spring, still helping me out. Summer coming up, they're going to be able to help me with that. Subscription service coming soon to Blakely's Bouquets. And get those Mother's Day orders in once again. They've helped me out. Go to Instagram. You can see what they can do. Search Blakely's Bouquets there. Amazing people, amazing flowers, great arrangements. Let them help you out today. 205-579-4900 or go to Blakely'sBouquets.com. So that's sort of where I am on Florida and everything surrounding that football team. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. We're going to get through every team. We're going to do spring previews for all of them. The UFL does have me a little bit backlogged. We are ending two baseball seasons and starting another one. So that's going to slow down just a tad. But we always appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like, rate, subscribe. Click the 5 stars if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. But thank you very much for all you guys do for the show. We love it. Tell your friends about it. And we'll be back next week.